Well, welcome back. We're still live here at the Chicago Midwinter floor, but today I'm interviewing one of my good friends, somebody I've known actually a good majority of my dental career. Dr. Robert Stanley out of Cary, North Carolina is joining us to talk all things implants. How's your day going?
It's going great.
Yeah?
We're here at Chicago Midwinter and it's actually warm.
I know. No snow, and
Yeah.
the weather has been very delightful, so it's been a nice break. So what have you done so far as part of the meeting, and what are you seeing that's kind of got you intrigued a little bit?
Well, I think the most exciting thing that I've come across is Sprint Ray.
Okay.
Sprint Ray had a meeting last night where they were talking about their new inventions, and in particular, being able to print all-on-X solutions in 22 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And so if you're doing like an all-on-X kind of scenario and then you do some photogrammetry at the end, you can literally scan and then let's just call it an hour, but you can print in 20 and then they're 22 minutes and then they have a new curing device that can cure in 5. So, you know, let's call it an hour total, but you can basically put them into a final restoration.
At surgery.
At surgery.
That's fantastic.
Right? So for the folks that kind of do that workflow, they're done in one kind of concept.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be a game changer, and it's only getting better. So, I mean, this is today, and this is twice as fast as last year. So, what's next year? You know.
Yeah.
So, I think this is going to revolutionize dentistry. If it hasn't already, I know it has in my practice.
Yeah.
But I think just that speed, and then the materials, obviously. So they have their Onyx Tough material, which we've been using for a number of years for our provisionals, our long-term provisionals.
Okay.
And we don't really have any fractures with them, right? And if we did, we'd print a new one for $2.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I mean, they're just amazing. And they have a new ceramic material. If anyone hasn't heard about this, you can print ceramic crowns now.
Yeah, I think young grads coming out soon will be buying their scanner and a printer.
Yeah.
And maybe bypassing the milling step altogether.
I can't.
I don't know.
I can't see. There's limitations with mills, right?
For sure. And
They're
they're
expensive.
super temperamental.
They are, and they're loud typically. They take a big footprint, and the printers are quiet, small footprint.
For sure. And it's easy to train your team. I don't know your experience, but getting our team trained on the maintenance of the milling machines and managing all the different kinds of materials that you can put in there, and then when they mix together, we get this lovely little cement around all the motors, versus training our team on the printer seemed like such a quicker onboarding transition. I don't know if that was your experience.
100%. So I was really resistant to buying a printer for a number of years. And my wife, Dr. Bobby Stanley, we practiced together, as you know. She says, no, I want one of these. And I said, you know, I just don't like doing dishes. And my point here is that I didn't want to clean the build plate.
Yeah, of course.
I just didn't want to do it. Well, we don't. Our team members do all of that.
Yeah.
And so we never got trained on it. They got trained on it, and they've been running the whole operation.
Yeah, and even the printing companies now are making all of those processes that much easier.
Yeah.
You know, build plates that slide into washers now and all kinds of things. So you're washing the models and the build plates simultaneously. Like there's a lot of innovation that's happening for use case in dentistry that's been really fun to be a part of. I was a little reticent as well when we first brought on our 3D printer, because the way that we think is more dental related. So bringing on a milling machine kind of made sense because you're still making a crown.
Right.
But three-dimensional printing, engineering, completely, fundamentally different than what we're used to as dentists. So I was nervous. I was like, this is likely going to be a treadmill in the corner that I'm going to stare at for a while and
Another
hang a coat
laser.
on it. Exactly. Thank you. Another laser in my corner.
Yeah.
Exactly. So part of your big educational platform is you're out there helping doctors become more proficient with implant dentistry.
Yeah. So, you know, my shtick is that I spent 11 years at NC State studying engineering. And before you think I'm an idiot, I did get three degrees there.
There you go.
For you listeners out there, I did get 3 degrees while we're there. And then I went into industry, and about a decade later, I went to dental school at UNC.
Yeah.
Woohoo! And so what I bring to the implant world is a combination of engineering and dentistry. And so if you think about, I always say this in my class, if you think about an implant, it's a screw, right? And when we went to biology school and when we went to dental school, we really didn't learn about screws. And then all of a sudden now we're going to place implants, and we're kind of somehow expected to know how to build things on top of these screws. And when we have complications, there's a tendency in the industry to run towards a biological answer. And many times they're biomechanical in nature. And so my whole kind of structure is based around bringing to light some very simple, basic principles in engineering that eliminate so many problems in your dental practice, like screw loosening and fractures of prostheses and the dreaded fracture of your implant.
For sure.
And it plays really nicely with individual implants as well as full mouths. Clearly, with full mouth, it's even more of an issue because you've got a bigger span to cover. So,
are you seeing GPs wanting to get more into implant dentistry, placing their own more surgically based clinicians?
So I've seen it, but I've also seen some data from the implant companies where they're finally getting to this, what I would say, kind of a critical threshold, where they're actually having more general practitioners that are buying more implants than specialists now, and that just crossed this year. And this is the fourth largest maker of implants in the world, and so they just had that crossover. So finally, we're starting to, as general practitioners that do this, we're starting to get a little bit of attention in terms of listening to what our needs are versus a multidisciplinary approach to implantology.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because we were talking with some manufacturers the other day, and when all these implant companies came online, they wouldn't even sell to a GP.
Right.
So not only are GPs sort of now crossing that line, they've come from where they were actually restricted in the marketplace. It wasn't that they even chose to be low-lying fruit for the manufacturers. They weren't even allowed to participate in the process. So very cool. As you're going to spend more time here this weekend, you're going to AARD, I think, after here.
Yeah.
Tell the folks a little bit about it. I don't know that a lot of folks know about AARD.
Well, it's kind of this mysterious organization.
It is a bit.
Yeah, it's a restorative academy, and it's by invitation only.
Correct.
And so clearly, the only way I got invited was because of my wife.
I'm also writing someone else's shirt tails as well, right?
So we were invited 2 years ago, and we went, and the caliber of the content delivered is spectacular. And it's self-edited. In other words, there's really no one sitting on top of it, but the people that they've invited are taking on the responsibility to deliver quality. So you're not just hearing somebody talk about maybe the same old, but they're bringing some really new, fresh content, stuff that if you've practiced for a while, you start to think, I've seen that before, I've heard that before, I know that, right? Not there. So the messages are oftentimes boiled down to short lectures, like 18 minutes. And so if you tell someone, especially like myself, you only have 18 minutes to make one point, and being compulsive like we are in dentistry, you really focus on that. What you get out of it is typically a really good nugget.
That's right.
And you walk away with nugget after nugget because they're quick, under 20 minutes. And when you walk away, you really have, in my scenario, a ton of homework to do when you get home.
100%.
Right?
And I rewatched all the lectures and was pulling all the research references and stuff. I say it's also where the lecturers go to get the latest education as well. I mean, when you're sitting in the room and Spear and Coyce and Kenzer and the guys that are leading a lot of the education for general and specialists out there are taking in that same data and information, and they're taking it back to their institutions, their symposiums to continue to push curriculum forward. And that's what you want. Yeah. You don't want your educators sitting in silos, not being engaged and not growing in their own knowledge base.
Or thinking, for instance, that everything's been solved.
That's right.
Right?
We're all done now.
Well, we're done. We figured it all out. Whoa.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It definitely geeking out, a bit of a wallflower, just taking it all in.
Yeah.
It's quite. So if anyone is in a community where they have an AARD dentist and they can get an invite, the elusive invite, it is definitely worth sitting in for one of those meetings to take it all in and to see kind of how the inner workings of dentistry is going on.
Yeah.
What parting words of wisdom would you share with some of our listeners about pursuing education, looking for these deep dives? You've chosen implant dentistry as a deep dive of education, looking for these opportunities to take a new skill set in their practice and maybe build out a portfolio they've never done before.
If I was talking to someone who was a recent graduate, what I would tell them is simply to do this. Take a deep breath and pace yourself. Mm-hmm. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We've all heard that colloquialism. Yep. And what I mean by that is when I first got out of dental school, I did everything. I did oral surgery, I did perio, I did endo, I did it all. And I went to all of the best educators in the country. So for perio, I went down and studied under Pat Allen, you know.
Exactly.
And the idea is that once you get that content and you learn about that and you hone that skill, which typically takes a minimum of 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a minimum of 6 months and sometimes longer. But when you get to the point where you've mastered that and you've kind of gone across that whole gambit of general practitioner, then have a glass of red wine or a cup of coffee, whatever floats your boat.
Cup du jour is, yeah.
And then sit down and say to yourself, but where do I really find my passions? And that's what I did. So after a number of years of kind of getting good at all of the different things, I said, I'm really having this propensity and gravity pull towards dental implants, which made a lot of sense because of the engineering background.
Right.
So it's so engineering driven, right?
Yep.
I mean, we're measuring, think about it, we call it an abutment, that's an engineering term.
Yep.
We call it torque, that's an engineering term. We call it stress, that's an engineering term. Thermonecrosis, we call that is an engineering term. There's all the things that, cyclic fatigue, those are all engineering terms that we're borrowing in dentistry. So I naturally gravitated towards that. And so I would say take your time, figure out where your passion really lies, and then maybe then start to hone your skills in on that one area.
Yep.
And really, focus on that.
And you can be successful running a general dentist practice, being very good and specialized in something that you enjoy. And I think that's a takeaway message for a lot of folks that feel very overwhelmed, like they hate endo or they hate surgery or they hate class 2 composites, whatever it happens to be, but still think they have to be the dentist that does it all. And I think your business model proves that doesn't have to be the case.
And I think everyone hates class 2
I think they do.
I started doing before, I started offering a small up fee, like a little small up fee to do an inlay or an onlay. Like I was like, I will do it on the CERAC because I wasn't happy with the results, right?
Agreed.
The contact would be a little point contact on the marginal ridge, and you're like, it's gonna work, but it doesn't make me sleep well at night.
I know.
And so,
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.